Ethan stared out of the viewport of the shuttle, his breath catching at the sight below. The planet spread out like a painting, with towering crystal mountains that shimmered in pink and gold light. Rivers of liquid that glowed faintly ran through. Valleys and massive trees stretched far higher than any tree he had seen on Earth, their leaves sparkling like gemstones. Even from orbit, the world looked alive as if it was breathing. This is incredible, Ethan whispered to himself. He had trained for years for this mission, but no training had prepared him for the beauty of Ziffer Prime. Humanity had explored distant star systems before, but Ziffer Prime was unique. It was the homeworld of the Ziffer, one of the galaxy's oldest and most mysterious civilizations. The shuttle landed smoothly on a platform that floated above a shimmering lake. As the doors opened, a rush of warm, scented air welcomed Ethan. It smelled sweet, like flowers mixed with ozone. The ground beneath his boots glimmered faintly, reacting to his weight. Tiny light particles hovered and drifted like fireflies, illuminating a pathway that led toward a grand palace in the distance. Ethan's heart raced. This was more than a mission, it was history. He had come to represent humanity, to make contact with a species whose existence had been mostly legend until recent decades, and he had no idea what awaited him. Hovering figures approached as he walked toward the palace. They were Ziffer guards, tall and slender, with metallic skin that shimmered under the sunlight. Their eyes were large, deep, and luminous. Each guard carried a staff, but it wasn't a weapon as humans understood it. Energy pulsed along the shaft, reacting to the guards' hand movements shifting from one color to another. The guards didn't speak. They communicated through soft mental pulses that Ethan could feel, almost like vibrations in his skull. He had been trained in basic Zifar language, but the mental communication was subtle, almost instinctive. A massive archway opened, revealing the palace. It was made of the same crystalline material as the mountains, smooth and reflective, with intricate patterns that changed color depending on the angle of the sunlight. Ethan felt small, almost childlike as he stepped inside. The palace hall stretched far and wide, and the ceiling was so high that he couldn't see the top. Strange orbs floated above, illuminating the halls without visible sources. It was unlike anything he had ever imagined. And then he saw her. The Empress. Seralia. She stepped forward from a corridor lined with light-emitting plants, her presence immediately commanding the room. Her height was impressive, but what truly made Ethan pause was her eyes. They were vast, a deep silver that seemed to shimmer and swirl like liquid metal. Her hair floated slightly around her head as if gravity was weaker around her. Her robes were simple in design but radiated elegance, woven from a material that reflected light without any visible source. Ethan swallowed, unsure how to act. He had expected to bow or extend a greeting, but he had not expected what happened next. Seralia knelt. Ethan froze. He could see the expression on her face, serious, respectful, almost reverent, but kneeling. He had no idea why. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, but no words came out. Is this part of your ceremony? He asked finally, his voice trembling. The Empress remained kneeling, her gaze fixed on him. The hall seemed to quiet even more, if that was possible. The floating orbs dimmed slightly, casting a soft light over her. Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and confusion. He had met ambassadors, politicians, even military leaders, but nothing prepared him for this moment. A holographic interface appeared in front of him, translating Seralia's thoughts into human speech. Human, Ethan of Earth. The voice said softly, melodious yet commanding. I recognize the courage you carry. I honor it. Ethan blinked. Courage? Seralia's eyes didn't leave his. Yes, the courage you have shown on your journey, the choices you made without thought for your own safety. The bravery to face the unknown. For this, I kneel. Ethan stepped back slightly, still in shock. I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just did my job. She tilted her head and a faint smile appeared. Your job is remarkable because you act with integrity. To us, it is not ordinary. You embody qualities we hold sacred. Ethan swallowed hard. He had trained for first contact protocols, learned the language, studied the culture, but nothing had prepared him for this. The concept of kneeling, something that on Earth often symbolized submission, was something entirely different here. It wasn't about subservience, it was respect, recognition, and honor. He looked around the hall, noticing for the first time the subtle details. Patterns on the walls seemed to pulse faintly with light, reflecting not just physical presence but emotional energy. Every step he took made tiny ripples of illumination. The palace itself felt alive, responsive, and yet the focus of this moment was Seralia, kneeling in front of him. Ethan finally found his voice. I don't understand. Why me? Why now? Seralia's voice was calm, yet firm. Because you represent the best of humanity. Your courage, your empathy, your ability to think and act for the greater good. These qualities are rare. They deserve recognition. Ethan's mind raced. He had always thought of himself as an explorer, a messenger. But here, before one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, he realized that his simple acts, navigating through asteroid storms, making peace with hostile factions, protecting his crew, were seen differently. To the Scifi, they were legendary. A guard approached, floating slightly above the ground, and gestured for Ethan to follow. The Empress rose gracefully, no longer kneeling, and motioned for him to walk beside her. As he moved, the hall seemed to stretch further, the colors changing subtly with every step. Ethan couldn't help but glance at Seralia. Her presence was more than regal, it was magnetic. He could feel the weight of her attention, her awareness of every detail, and yet there was no hostility, only respect. They entered a chamber filled with holographic maps of stars and planets. Seralia gestured to a large display, showing areas of the galaxy where the Scifi had influence. We have watched humanity for decades, she explained. Your species is young, but you possess potential. Potential to do things none could imagine. We kneel because we see that spark. Ethan nodded slowly, beginning to understand. His training, his choices, his dedication, it all mattered here in ways he could not have anticipated. And now, he was not just a visitor. He was someone the Empress recognized as important. Your presence here is no accident, Seralia continued. You will see truths of the galaxy few humans ever witness. And perhaps, you will change the course of events that have been unfolding for centuries. Ethan felt a mix of fear and excitement. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but so did a sense of wonder. He had come seeking knowledge, but he realized knowledge alone would not prepare him for what lay ahead. This mission was about courage, compassion, and choices. Choices that could ripple across worlds. As the chamber doors closed behind them, Ethan took a deep breath. He looked at the Empress, and this time he didn't see kneeling or hierarchy. He saw recognition and honor. A silent understanding passed between them, the beginning of a story that would span galaxies. And for the first time, Ethan felt that he was exactly where he needed to be. Ethan walked beside Seralia, the alien Empress, through the grand corridors of the palace. His mind was still racing from the earlier moment, the kneeling, the recognition, the weight of honor he hadn't yet understood. The walls seemed alive, patterns shimmering and shifting as if reacting to his presence. The floor beneath them glowed faintly, each step leaving tiny light ripples that faded moments later. You must be wondering why I knelt, Seralia said, her voice calm, yet carrying authority. It is not common. Only those who demonstrate rare qualities receive such acknowledgement. Ethan swallowed and nodded. I didn't think I had done anything extraordinary. Seralia paused, her silver eyes fixed on him. What is ordinary to one world can be legendary to another. Courage, compassion, ingenuity. These are values your species often overlooks, but we see them clearly. She led him into a chamber filled with holographic projections of past events. Stellar systems, planets, and fleets of starships moved gracefully through the air. Ethan marveled at the technology. Ships moving faster than light. Energy patterns calculated with precision he could barely comprehend. These are the moments we have observed, Seralia continued, pointing to different areas of the holograms. The humans who dared, who chose bravery over fear. You are one of them. Ethan leaned closer, squinting at a scene showing a starship navigating a dense asteroid field. He recognized it instantly. It was his own ship during the final approach to Zifar Prime. Memories flooded back, the alarms, the danger, the decision to risk his own safety to guide his crew through the chaos. I remember that, he said quietly. It was terrifying, Seralia nodded. And yet you faced it. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because it was necessary. That is the courage we honor. Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had always thought of his actions as duty, simple responsibility. But here they were seen as remarkable. The concept was difficult to grasp, yet comforting. Your species is young, yet full of potential, Seralia continued. We have watched humans for many cycles. Many fail to see the impact of their choices. You, however, act with clarity and honor. Ethan looked at her, trying to process the weight of her words. You've been watching humanity. Seralia's gaze softened slightly. Not to control, not to interfere unnecessarily. We watch to understand, to see who among you can rise to challenges we could never foresee. You are one of those humans. The chamber's hologram shifted to show a more personal series of events. Ethan saw himself not as a hero, but as a human being making choices under pressure, negotiating with hostile factions, rescuing injured crew members, solving problems no one else could handle. Each act was simple to him, yet the Scifi observed every detail and interpreted them as extraordinary. You see, Ethan, Seralia said, her voice gentle, your courage is not measured by the size of your weapon or the power of your fleet. It is measured by your heart, your decisions, and your willingness to face the unknown. That is why I knelt. Ethan's eyes widened. I never imagined my actions could mean that much. They do, she replied. And now you will see why your presence here is significant. The galaxy faces challenges that require more than strength. They require understanding, wisdom, and the ability to act with integrity. We believe you possess these qualities. For the first time, Ethan felt the magnitude of his journey. This was no longer about exploration alone. His choices, his instincts, his bravery, they had consequences far beyond what he had imagined. Seralia gestured toward a map of the galaxy, highlighting a cluster of star systems with red markers. There is unrest among certain Sci-Fi factions. They wish to challenge the Empire, to seize power through fear. Your insight and perspective may help us prevent unnecessary conflict. Ethan studied the map. I'm not a military strategist, he admitted. I've faced dangers, yes, but leading a campaign, this is beyond me. Leadership comes in many forms, Seralia said, her silver eyes steady on him. You lead by example, by acting with courage, by showing empathy, by choosing what is right even when it is difficult. These qualities inspire trust and loyalty. That is leadership. Ethan nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The Empress kneeling earlier was not just an honor. It was a recognition of potential, a signal that she believed in him in ways he could not yet comprehend. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. A Scifi advisor appeared, floating slightly above the ground, and gestured for Seralia. The council awaits, Empress, the advisor said, his voice calm but urgent. Seralia nodded and turned to Ethan. Come, you will meet the council. It is important for you to witness how we make decisions, and perhaps offer your perspective. Ethan followed her, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. The council chamber was vast, circular, and lined with seats filled with Scifi leaders. Their eyes, like Seralia's, shimmered with silver light. Some whispered quietly, sending faint pulses of thought that Ethan could barely sense. He realized that every action, every gesture carried weight in this culture. Seralia guided him to a place beside her. Observe, Ethan, learn, speak when you feel it necessary. But above all, understand that respect is earned through integrity. The council began discussing the unrest among the rebel factions. Ethan listened closely, noticing patterns and strategies that were unfamiliar to him. The Scifi thought in ways that were both logical and intuitive, blending data with emotional perception. He realized that while their technology was advanced, their true strength lay in their culture, values, honor, and understanding of consequences. A disagreement arose among the council members. Some proposed swift military action, others sought diplomacy. Ethan's instincts, honed through years of navigating conflicts on Earth, urged caution. He noticed that aggressive action could lead to unnecessary destruction. Taking a deep breath, he spoke. "If I may, perhaps there is a way to show strength without violence. Sometimes patience and understanding can prevent conflict better than weapons." The room fell silent. Even the council members who had argued for immediate action paused to consider his words. Seralia's gaze met his, a flicker of approval in her eyes. "Explain," one of the counselors finally said. Curious, Ethan outlined a plan to engage with the rebel leaders, to understand their motives and offer a chance for dialogue. He suggested using human negotiation techniques, emphasizing shared goals and respect. As he spoke, he noticed the Zephyr listening intently, their pulses of thought synchronizing with the rhythm of his words. When he finished, Seralia nodded. "Your perspective is valuable, Ethan. Not because it is human, but because it is wise. Courage is not only in facing danger, it is also in seeking understanding." Ethan felt a swell of pride, though tempered by humility. He had only offered what he knew, yet it was being recognized as extraordinary. The council accepted his advice. Plans were adjusted, and a delegation was prepared to approach the rebel factions with diplomacy first. Ethan realized that his actions here could save lives, prevent conflict, and strengthen the bond between humans and Zephyr. Later, as the meeting ended, Seralia walked beside him again. "Do you understand now why I knelt?" she asked gently. Ethan nodded. "Yes, I think I do. It wasn't about me being greater than you. It was about recognition. Recognition of what courage and integrity mean, even to a human like me." Seralia's lips curved into a small smile. "Exactly. The galaxy watches for those who can inspire, protect, and act wisely. You have shown you are such a person, and now you have a choice to continue your journey, knowing you are part of something larger than yourself." Ethan looked out at the palace gardens through the open arches. Strange flowers glowed in the fading light, and crystal spires reflected the setting sun. He felt small in this vast universe, yet for the first time he also felt significant. His actions, his choices, his courage, they mattered. He turned to Seralia. "I want to do what I can. I don't fully understand everything yet, but I will try." She inclined her head. "That is all we ask. Try with courage and wisdom, and the galaxy will respond accordingly." As they walked toward the exit, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. The kneeling, the honor, the respect, it was not just ceremony. It was a call to action, and he intended to answer it. The universe was vast and full of unknown dangers. But for the first time, Ethan knew that his human qualities, courage, compassion, ingenuity, were recognized, valued, and needed. And that knowledge filled him with both awe and determination. The shuttle descended onto the rocky surface of Zephyr Prime's outer territory. Ethan sat beside Empress Seralia, his eyes scanning the jagged landscape below. Massive stone cliffs jutted upward, and narrow canyons wound through the terrain like veins. Pools of shimmering liquid dotted the ground, reflecting the alien sky in colors he had never seen. "This region is dangerous," Seralia said, her voice calm but firm. "Rebel factions have taken refuge here. They are skilled, and the terrain favors them. It is not a simple negotiation." Ethan nodded, feeling the tension settle over him. He had faced danger before, but he knew this was different. The rebels were not ordinary criminals. They were part of a highly trained Zephyr faction, disillusioned with the Empress's rule. And now, he would be part of the mission to bring peace. As the shuttle landed, a group of Zephyr guards floated silently around them. Ethan stepped out, the ground glowing faintly under his boots. Every ripple of movement seemed to react to him, as if the planet itself acknowledged his presence. Seralia gestured toward a narrow canyon. "We must proceed carefully. Observe and act only when necessary. Your perspective is valuable, Ethan. Sometimes human insight can see solutions we cannot." Ethan followed, keeping his senses alert. The canyon was narrow and twisting, with towering cliffs on either side. Shadows moved unpredictably, and faint whispers of thought rippled through the air, a sign of the rebel scouts nearby. "Stay close," Seralia advised. "They will test us. They respect courage, but they also test patience and wisdom." Hours passed as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Ethan noticed small but important details: patterns in the rock formations, unusual energy readings, and the subtle way light reflected off the canyon walls. These observations allowed the group to avoid natural traps and ambushes. Finally, they reached a large plateau where the rebels had set up a temporary encampment. Seralia raised her hand and the group halted. The rebels had noticed them and tension crackled in the air. Ethan felt his heart rate increase. This was the moment of truth. The rebels could attack at any second. But he remembered Seralia's words. Courage was not just about facing danger. It was also about choosing understanding over violence. He whispered to her, "Perhaps we can approach them without drawing weapons first. Show them we mean to talk." Seralia nodded, and Ethan led the first steps toward the rebels. As they drew closer, he called out, using the translator device to convey his message. "We come not to fight, but to understand. We wish to speak, not destroy." The rebels paused, their eyes glowing faintly as they considered him. Their leader stepped forward, a tall Zypher with a stern expression and shimmering armor. "You are human," the leader said. "Why should we trust you?" Ethan held his gaze steady. "Because I risk my life to protect those who cannot defend themselves. Because I have faced the unknown without hesitation. Because I act with honesty and integrity. These are qualities that matter, even to your people." There was a long silence. The rebel leader's eyes narrowed, then softened slightly. He studied Ethan as if weighing every word, every intention. Slowly, he nodded. "Your words carry truth. We will listen." The negotiations began, with Ethan acting as mediator between the Empress and the rebels. He suggested compromises, focusing on common goals and mutual benefit. He noticed the Zyphar's tendency to respond not only to logic, but also to emotional energy, an understanding that his human approach could influence them in ways Seralia alone might not. Hours passed, and progress was made. The rebels agreed to withdraw from the contested areas under the condition that their concerns would be addressed. Ethan felt a surge of relief. His human perspective had made a tangible difference, but the mission was not over. As night fell, the group set up camp near the edge of the canyon. Ethan sat beside a small fire-like device reflecting on the day's events. Seralia approached him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. "You handled yourself well," she said softly, "not just with courage, but with insight. You see beyond immediate danger to the consequences of actions. That is rare even among humans." Ethan shrugged, a faint smile on his face. "I just did what I thought was right. I didn't expect it to matter this much." Seralia's eyes seemed to soften. "That is the difference, Ethan. Actions that seem ordinary to you can have extraordinary effects in the galaxy. You have demonstrated qualities that inspire trust and loyalty. This is why I honored you earlier." Ethan felt a mix of pride and humility. The kneeling, the recognition, it all made sense now. It was not just a ceremonial gesture. It was acknowledgement of his courage, wisdom, and moral strength. The next day, they moved deeper into the canyon to ensure that no rebel stragglers could regroup and cause further unrest. Ethan observed the terrain carefully, noticing subtle cues, footprints, energy traces, and signs of hidden caches. His human intuition allowed the group to avoid potential traps, and Seralia acknowledged his observations with a nod. As they approached a particularly narrow passage, a sudden ambush was triggered. Rebel scouts hidden along the cliffs opened fire with energy weapons. The guards raised their shields, but Ethan acted instinctively. He noticed the energy pulses were slightly misaligned. If they redirected a small section of the force, they could deflect the attack without direct confrontation. "Move slightly to the left," he shouted. "Redirect the energy flow there." Seralia's guards adjusted their shields, and the attack was neutralized with minimal effort. The rebels, seeing that their ambush failed without bloodshed, paused. Ethan stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "You see," he said firmly, "violence is not necessary. Let us find another way." The rebel leader emerged again, clearly impressed. "You humans are strange," he said, a hint of respect in his voice. "You fight with cleverness, not just force, and yet you do not seek glory in doing so." Ethan smiled faintly. "I fight to protect, not to conquer." By the end of the encounter, the rebels agreed to retreat peacefully to their base, under the understanding that their concerns would be addressed diplomatically. Seralia turned to Ethan, her silver eyes glowing with approval. "You see, Ethan," she said, "courage is important, but wisdom is what sustains peace. You have shown both." Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had entered this mission unsure of his role, but now he understood. His human qualities, courage, empathy, ingenuity, were not only recognized but essential in shaping outcomes the Ziffer valued. As they returned to the palace, Ethan looked at the alien world around him with new eyes. The landscape, the creatures, the people, they were all part of a galaxy that responded to choices, not just power. And in this vast universe, humans had a role. His actions, his decisions, even his presence could ripple across worlds. Seralia spoke softly as they walked back through the palace gardens. The galaxy is watching, Ethan. Not all see as we do, but those who act with integrity will leave their mark. You have already begun to do so. Ethan nodded. For the first time, he felt that he was not just a visitor or an observer. He was a participant, a force that could shape events. The kneeling, the recognition, the respect, it all made sense now. It was about potential, about choices, about the courage to act wisely when it mattered most. That night, Ethan stood at the edge of the palace terrace, looking up at the stars. The alien sky stretched endlessly above him, filled with unfamiliar constellations and distant worlds. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of the future that now seemed intertwined with Zephyr Prime. He understood one thing clearly. Courage was not measured by victories alone, but by the choices made when faced with the unknown. And in this moment he knew that humans, simple, fragile, yet capable of extraordinary courage, could inspire even the most powerful civilizations. Beside him, Seralia remained silent, a quiet guardian and observer. For the first time, Ethan felt that their bond was not only diplomatic but also a mutual understanding of honor, respect, and shared purpose. The trials of the day had forged a connection that neither time nor distance could easily break. And somewhere deep within him, Ethan realized that the kneeling was not just a recognition, it was a challenge. A challenge to continue acting with courage, compassion, and wisdom. A challenge to shape a galaxy that was watching, waiting, and in some ways depending on him. The morning sun stretched across Zephyr Prime, casting the crystal mountains in shades of pink and gold. Ethan stood on the palace terrace watching the light shift and dance across the landscape. The events of the past days had left him exhausted, yet invigorated. He had come to the Zephyr world as a visitor, unsure of his place, and now he felt like an integral part of a story that spanned galaxies. Seralia appeared beside him silently, her robes brushing against the terrace floor. She did not need to speak. Her presence was commanding yet reassuring. Ethan looked at her, remembering the first moment she had knelt. Back then he had been confused, embarrassed, and unsure. Now he understood. "You have seen much, Ethan," Seralia said, her voice soft. "You have witnessed our technology, our people, our history, but what you may not yet fully understand is the depth of the respect you have earned." Ethan shook his head, smiling faintly. "I still feel like I am just a human who did what any person would do." "I didn't do anything extraordinary." Seralia's silver eyes met his. "You see your actions as ordinary because they come naturally to you. But courage, integrity, and compassion are not common even among humans. You possess them in a way that influences others and inspires trust. That is why I knelt. That is why the Council listens to you. That is why the galaxy will remember your choices." Ethan's chest tightened. The realization hit him with clarity. His small acts, his instinctive decisions had meaning far beyond what he had imagined. It was humbling and exhilarating at the same time. Seralia gestured toward the palace gardens below. Strange flowers glowed faintly in the soft morning light, their colors shifting with every breeze. Pools of liquid reflected the sky, showing colors Ethan had never seen before. It was beautiful, alien, and alive. "Come," she said, motioning for him to follow. They walked down a wide staircase, the steps glowing faintly with each footfall. "I want to show you something that may help you understand the significance of your role." They entered a chamber lined with walls of light and crystal. Holographic images floated in the air, showing moments from the past and projections of the future. Ethan could see star systems, fleets of ships and cities on distant worlds, but there was something more. Images of humans not just as explorers but as peacemakers, problem solvers, and pioneers. "Your species has been observed for centuries," Seralia explained. "We have seen humans overcome adversity, face the unknown, and act with courage when fear would have stopped others. These qualities have made you legends among civilizations far older than your own." Ethan felt a wave of astonishment. "Legends, me?" "Yes," Seralia replied, her tone firm yet kind. "Not for violence or conquest, but for courage, for moral strength, for the ability to act with wisdom and compassion. You are a symbol of what humanity can achieve. That is why we honor you. That is why I knelt before you." Ethan looked down at the floor, humbled. All his life he had considered himself ordinary, doing what needed to be done. But here, in this alien world, he realized that ordinary actions, when done with integrity, could have extraordinary impact. "Your journey is not over," Saralia said. "The galaxy is vast, full of challenges, opportunities, and consequences. You have shown that humans are capable of greatness. Your presence here strengthens bonds, inspires cooperation, and reminds us that courage comes in many forms." Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. The kneeling, the recognition, the respect, it had been a call to action. And now, he knew that his actions, even small ones, could shape the future of civilizations. Over the next several days, Ethan continued to work with Saralia and the Council. They addressed lingering rebel concerns, negotiated treaties with neighboring star systems, and shared knowledge about human problem-solving and diplomacy. Ethan's input was invaluable, not because he wielded power, but because he approached situations with courage, empathy, and ingenuity. One evening, as the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows over the palace, Saralia led Ethan to a high balcony overlooking the city. The buildings were crystalline and organic, growing like living structures. Lights pulsed through the walls, reacting to movement and thought. Zifar citizens moved gracefully through the streets below, their silver eyes reflecting both curiosity and respect. "You have done much in a short time," Saralia said, "but there is something more I wish you to see." She motioned toward a massive hall nearby. Holographic symbols floated above the entrance, glowing with a soft light. "This is our Hall of Recognition. It honors those who have influenced our world and inspired change. And it now honors you." Ethan felt a surge of disbelief. "Me, in your Hall of Recognition?" Saralia nodded. "You may find it unusual, but for the Zephyr, this is the highest honor. Not for strength, not for conquest, but for courage, wisdom, and integrity. It is a recognition of the impact you have had and will continue to have on our civilization." Ethan stepped inside the hall, eyes wide. Holographic images of past Zephyr heroes shimmered in the air, each accompanied by stories of bravery, insight, and moral strength. Then in the center of the hall, a projection appeared of Ethan himself. Moments from his journey, his choices, his courage during negotiations, and the peace he had helped bring. The words beneath his image read, "Ethan of Earth, courage and wisdom beyond worlds." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had never sought recognition, never expected honor. Yet here, on an alien world, his actions were celebrated not for power, but for their essence, the courage to act rightly, the wisdom to seek understanding, and the integrity to face danger without thought for personal gain. Saralia stood beside him silently. "You understand now, do you?" she asked. Ethan nodded, emotion heavy in his chest. "Yes, I understand. The kneeling, the recognition. It wasn't just about me being here. It was about what humans are capable of and what we can contribute when we act with courage and integrity." The Empress inclined her head, a rare smile crossing her features. "Exactly. You are not just a human visitor. You are a bridge between our worlds. Your presence reminds us that even young civilizations can inspire greatness, influence the galaxy, and earn respect across the stars." Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment, unlike anything he had ever known. He had come to Zephyr Prime unsure of his place, expecting only to observe and learn. Instead, he had become part of something larger, something that transcended species, politics, and technology. His courage, compassion, and ingenuity had been recognized and valued in ways he could not have imagined. That night, as he looked out at the alien sky, he reflected on the journey. The kneeling, the honor, the recognition, it had been a lesson in humility and strength. Humanity's place in the galaxy was still young, but the potential was limitless. Courage, compassion, and wisdom were not limited to one species. They were universal, and they could shape the fate of worlds. Beside him, Saralia remained silent, watching the stars. Ethan realized that their bond had grown stronger, not through commands or power, but through mutual respect, trust, and understanding. He felt that together, humans and Zephyr could face whatever challenges the galaxy might present. Finally, he turned to Saralia. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." for recognizing me, for showing me what my choices can mean." The Empress's silver eyes reflected the twin suns above. "It is not only I who recognize you, Ethan. The galaxy watches and it remembers. You have shown that courage, integrity, and compassion can change worlds. You have inspired us as we hope you have inspired yourself." Ethan smiled, a deep sense of purpose filling him. He understood now that being human was not a limitation. It was a strength. Even in the vastness of space, even among civilizations older and more advanced than his own, human courage could be seen, recognized, and honored. As the night deepened and the stars shimmered above Zephyr Prime, Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. His journey and humanity's influence in the galaxy was just starting. And in that moment, he felt ready for whatever the universe might hold. For the first time, Ethan truly understood why the alien Empress had knelt. It was not subservience. It was respect, recognition, and hope. And it was a moment he would carry with him forever.